Beliefs are an important part of our being, an important part of our identity. There are many different types of beliefs. We have beliefs about the world around us, we have beliefs about ourselves, we have beliefs about others, we have beliefs about events that happen around us, we have beliefs about the rules that govern this world. And on top of that, some of our beliefs are values. All of this determine our accomplishments, and some of these beliefs are conscious and some of these beliefs are unconscious. We can also divide beliefs into empowering beliefs or disempowering beliefs. Disempowering beliefs are essentially limiting beliefs, and limiting beliefs typically characterize a fixed mindset. Let's look at a few examples of limiting beliefs before we talk about how do we know that we even have limiting beliefs. This is a question that has been posed to me, and often they are something that we do not know about. In other words, we are ignorant that we do have these limiting beliefs because they're so deeply embedded into our subconscious mind. So are we born with limiting beliefs? No, we are not. Limiting beliefs kind of diffuse itself from the surrounding, from others, from events that occur, basically from all kinds of stimuli that happened around us. Limiting beliefs diffuse into us and parks itself in our subconscious mind and becomes a lasting weight that we bear on our shoulders that then inhibit performance. Limiting beliefs are really difficult to identify because of this nature. We're not born with limiting beliefs. Just imagine this scenario, yeah? If we were born with limiting beliefs, that means we would never have grown to be able to crawl and walk and run. If you observe a baby, you would totally understand what I am trying to tell you. Have you ever seen a baby trying to walk? Do they ever give up? Do they have a limiting belief that they are not going to walk? Most babies become toddlers and they just get up and walk. Limiting beliefs happen over years, in the formative years, because of so much stimuli is bombarded against us. As we grow up, we absorb more and more limiting beliefs, and the more obedient we are, the more our tendency to shape ourselves according to the opinion of others, the more the limiting beliefs we would have accumulated, absorbed into ourselves, and remain unaware of it. And as such, we carry this forward, and these limiting beliefs actually inhibit performance. Right. Let me give you a few examples. In my years as a teacher, I have met students who have so many limiting beliefs inhibiting their performance, often planted into their young minds in the formative years by the very people who are supposed to set them up for high performance or success in life. In one case, a student told me that she has to work very, very hard compared to others because her mother had told her that she's actually not smart. The only way you're going to do well is if you work very hard. So if others study for 3 hours, you have to study for 6 hours. So this poor child used to study the same thing over and over again because she used to study very hard and she had acquired the learning strategies. So Over the years, she had developed the ability to study difficult subject matter very quickly, but still, because of this limiting belief, she used to spend hours learning and practicing, and she would not allow herself enough time for recreation. She was a very unhappy child, but luckily for her, she met me. And after some time, after discussing a lot of things, she understood that good came out of this limiting belief, but it was time to remove the limiting belief. The good that came out of this limiting belief was that she is actually, due to the hard work that she put in, she has become a person who really has in her compendium of skills very good learning strategies, and therefore she could study difficult subject matter at an increasingly faster rate, which means that she would have a lot of time for co-curricular activity and other recreational activities. As a result, she went on to study at university and become a very well-rounded person. Yes, she was very balanced in both academics and co-curricular activities and recreational activities. So the very people who are supposed to empower the young ones are the ones who plant these limiting beliefs inside their minds, with good intention, of course. And once this limiting belief is planted, if it is not identified and removed, it will inhibit high performance. Recognize these limiting beliefs and remove them. You recognize your limiting beliefs only when a compelling incident or event, again another type of stimuli that forces you to think about your limiting belief, to question what is stopping you from doing something that you really want to do. And then when you examine your internal workings or your inner dialogues or beliefs, then you realize, oh, I believe this way, right? For example, some people may believe that they can never ride a bicycle because somewhere at a certain time in their life they were told, you're clumsy, you're just not good at psychomotor skills, you can't balance, you always fall down, so stop. So if this kind of messages are spoken, in other words, if an individual is exposed to this kind of stimuli at an age where they would accept that as the truth because it comes from someone in a position of authority, they just believe and they absorb it, they repeat it to themselves every time they want to try, they repeat it to themselves and then they never try it, and that becomes a limiting belief. And when can this limiting belief be removed? Let's say they're in a challenging situation. Let's say this person now lives in a city where cars are very expensive, and she lives just within 1 or 2 kilometers of her workplace, and she needs to cycle. Now she's in a compelling situation where she needs to be able to cycle because it's the only option available to her to get to work on time and easily. Well, walking is there, but her work, the distance between her residence and her workplace is just that distance that makes it convenient to cycle, but it would take a much longer time for her to walk. So under these circumstances, then this person would re-examine, okay, right now I really need to cycle. Is it really true that I would never be able to learn how to cycle? And if somebody tells her, no, you know, anybody could learn anything, and you are a smart person, you could learn anything and I would help you, then the person can break it down into baby steps and take those steps of learning how to cycle, practicing every day, and eventually getting it right, and then that limiting belief that she is a person who's just not good with anything involving psychomotor skills, and therefore she will never be able to cycle or do anything else like cycling, that limiting belief would be removed and she would have overcome it. And the beauty of removing one limiting belief, once you do it, you develop the confidence to remove other limiting beliefs as well as and when they come up. But as I said, most often removing limiting beliefs must start with identifying the limiting beliefs, and therein lies the difficult part, because limiting beliefs are often formed in formative years through input of stimuli by significant others around the individual, and therefore over time it becomes embedded in the subconscious mind. Hypnosis is a great technique, meditation is a great technique to bring up the limiting beliefs that are deeply embedded inside, but often the trigger has to be a very strong need in the conscious world, in other words in the environment. Yeah, a very strong need should arise, or a major challenge that needs to be overcome will trigger. Another example of a limiting belief, or how a limiting belief is stuck into the mind of a child, is in a traumatic in the event of a traumatic incident. I witnessed this incident once when a child was carrying a whole bowl of hot food, and it was just too hot because she was using a cloth, but she had her finger, one part of her finger was touching the part of the metal bowl that she was carrying, with where the cloth was not in between her fingers and the bowl, and she dropped the bowl, and the whole food, the whole content of the bowl just spilled on the floor, and there was no food for everyone on that day. And I witnessed the mother shouting at her, saying that you're so clumsy, you're always clumsy, you cannot be expected to do a simple task without failing. And when someone is in a trauma, I saw that girl just looking at her mother with shame and shock, because the mother did this, of course with good intention, but in front of a lot of other people, and this child was embarrassed. And in that moment I knew this child's limiting belief has been planted in her. So number one, as parents, teachers, do not contribute to implanting limiting beliefs in the children. If anything, help them identify and overcome limiting beliefs and removing limiting beliefs in its entirety.